I can name a whole group of people who were just incredibly frustrated and even alienated by Joe Biden's campaign and presidency, even particularly in the last year. And yet handing that thing off sooner than later probably would have been better. I'm not sure if Kamala Harris does better if she has more time. The argument is always, oh, she only had 107 days. I don't know if 207 days makes her more likely to be president or less likely to be president. It seemed like the more the country got to know her, the less interested they were in her being president. Is that the wrong way to think about it?
Disagrees with that, because I campaigned with her and I watched her grow. I wasn't real high on her as a candidate, obviously, the first time around. I don't think Biden did her any powers, because I don't think Biden empowered her as vice president. I wish he had done more of that, but I watched her grow over the campaign. But I think I agree with you that even with more time, there were basic things that people were pissed off about that the Democratic Party just didn't talk to. And so they went with the bullshit artist who at least talked about that stuff.
He talked about it. He's like, oh, I'll lower the price of groceries. Then he wins. He's like, oh, you want me to do my groceries?
They're fucking eating cats and dogs. All bullshit, all a lie. But he talked about the problem of our broken immigration system, and Dems just didn't talk about it for too long.
Let me ask you a question. You campaigned with Kamala Harris, as you just said. Did she think she was going to win?
Did she think she was going to win?
Yeah.
Yes, absolutely. And you get in a bubble, like I've run for office, you get in a bubble, but it was like, and Mark, there was a part of me, even though I knew that there was this populist anger out there, I still thought, and I had people around Harris who said to me directly, Joe, I get it. People are pissed about immigration and the economy, the price of eggs. But there's no fucking way at the end of the day, they're going to send that horrible guy back to Washington. So I think they believed that protected them. And I think she believed a lot of that. And that, by the way, Mark, the biggest mistake she made was not putting herself out there in front of everybody from day one. She should have gone on with Joe Rogan the first week she was a candidate, get in front of idiots like Tucker Carlson, go everywhere. But they tried to protect her because they thought Trump's a bad guy and that'll carry us.
I mean, the whole "at least I'm not him" strategy worked for Biden. So I get why, but Biden's also an old white guy, and a more seasoned politician and someone that people trusted. And there was a pandemic. I mean, there were a lot of factors here.
Yes.
Do you think America would have voted for ultimately a Black woman under any circumstance?
Mark, that's a great question. And you're asking a Tea Party guy, still proud Tea Party guy from the right. I think yes, but I think there are Americans who won't. And that is an obstacle that a woman has, and that is an obstacle that a woman of color would have. I think most Americans would. But there is a minority of Americans that would never. So that's a hurdle a woman of color would have to get over. Mark, I had too many conversations with, weirdly, you know this better than I do, like Black men, Latino men, Arab men who spoke about, who would tell me directly a woman shouldn't be in charge. Like I heard that on the trail plenty.
That and you know, that's my fear, right? There's always the white guy in our kind of imagination who we say the Archie Bunker of the world, who's like, I'm not doing that, right? But it's not the Archie Bunker that I worry about, because Democrats don't win presidencies by getting the majority of white people. You know, white people never vote for. I mean, white people don't vote for Democrats, right? And the majority of white people don't vote Democrat, right? In this country, it's the George Jeffersons that also won't vote for Kamala Harris. And if you get that combo where the one thing they agree on is that a woman shouldn't be president, and God forbid a Black woman, I'm not sure that there's a chance. And so then that puts you in a really weird spot as a party, because if the logic is a Black woman can't win, even if we accept that logic, at least at this juncture in history, then we're also reinforcing the racism by saying we're never going to nominate a black woman, even if she's qualified.
Well, bingo. But I guess I don't buy that. I don't buy the premise. I think a black woman could win. I think if Kamala Harris ran again, she could win. I think. Look, I know, like we're all messed up because he won again, but he didn't win by a lot. He won by about 230,000 votes again in 3 states. So it was, with all the handicaps that she had, it was almost a tie again. He didn't get 50% of the vote.
Wait,
Go ahead.
pull that up. That doesn't sound right. The popular
I
vote,
could be wrong on that, but he was down to 49.4% of the vote.
49 point. Yeah, I'm looking now at the latest number I see is 49.9. So
Okay.
fair enough. I guess he technically didn't get the majority. It's just he won by 2.3 million votes and he dominated the electoral map.
Well, right. But he dominated because he swept all the states, but he only won by like 270,000 votes. If she had flipped 270,000 votes in the battleground states, she would have gotten.
I see what you mean. Okay. I see what you
mean.
mean.
And by the way, Mark, you and I probably agree on this. You are a far left guy. I'm a far right guy. The Electoral College is fucked up because so many Democrats didn't vote. The only reason Trump won the popular vote is because the Democratic vote in California, New York, and Illinois, my state, was way, way down. They didn't even bother to vote because it didn't matter.
Yeah, that's
fucked up.
Yeah. I'm baffled by it. I mean, it's you raise a really interesting question. I'm not sure she could possibly have done any different no matter what the arrangement was. I mean, again, we've seen what Donald Trump could do. We see who he is. And I know there was the narrative that the economy was tanked and he's the only one who could bring it back, and that she was talking about the wrong issues and he was speaking to the bread and butter issues. That just felt like, to me, an excuse.
Mark, I'll tell you one thing she could have done that might have won her the campaign. I forget when it was, but she's on The View and she's asked that question. Is there anything you differ with Joe Biden, disagree with? And she fumbled. She kind of said, no, nothing. If she had said something like, and this was in mid-September, if she had said, you know what? We didn't, our immigration system's broken, and we did a lousy job addressing the situation at the border. We waited too long. I wish we had gotten more proactive earlier and tried to fix our asylum system and all of that. If she had said something to distinguish herself from Biden on one major issue, it could have mattered, and she just wouldn't go there.
Just throw him under the bus.
Well,
I mean, this is what you got to do, right? I mean, that's a fancy way of saying throw him under the bus, especially if she's the border czar.
Well, I know, but that whole border czar thing was screwed up because she really wasn't put in charge of the border. She was put in charge of talking to Central American countries. But I get your point. I get your point.
She would have to say that. I wasn't really the border czar. If I were, this. I mean, again.
Yeah, that ain't working.
Right.
But no, yeah, throw Biden under the bus, but you're not Joe Biden. You guys messed up on the border at the beginning. You did. Acknowledge that. I don't know. That's just one example. But if she couldn't articulate one difference with Biden, and she never really did, that's a problem.
I agree. So one area where I think, and this is again coming at it from the other perspective, where she could have made a difference was on the question of Gaza.
Yeah.
There were, I mean, if you look in Pennsylvania, if you look in Michigan, I mean, there were lots of places where people said, hey, a different stance on Gaza is needed. There were a lot of people who said that they would be a lot more likely to vote for Kamala Harris if she supported a ceasefire, if she supported an embargo, if she said, I mean, a ceasefire and an embargo were popular prospects, popular initiatives, particularly among Democrats and likely Democratic voters. There were lots of people who said they'd be more likely to vote for Kamala Harris if she took a more humane and principled stance on Gaza vis-a-vis ceasefire weapons embargo, etc. And again, she could have separated herself from Joe Biden. I'm not saying she actually sees this any differently than Joe Biden, but maybe she should have. I don't think she actually gives a damn about fracking, but she took a position that she thought would be attractive to the base. Here, she took a very different. She made a very different choice. She said, "I'm not. Basically, give me a chance." She gets the baton, and there were a lot of people who, on my platform, myself included, who were absolutely not going to vote for Joe Biden because of this issue. And a lot of people, myself included, said, let's give her a shot. I'm talking about before she even chose a running mate.
Yeah.
And one of the reasons why I was pushing her so hard not to choose Shapiro, and both publicly and behind the scenes pushing them, do not get Josh Shapiro. I had at least 4 reasons for that, but one of them was you'll immediately be put back into Biden territory on this Israel-Palestine issue. When she didn't choose Shapiro, it wasn't about choosing Walsh, it was about not choosing Shapiro. People said, hey, maybe she's different. Maybe she's, they looked at her not speaking to Netanyahu or not meeting Netanyahu when he gave his joint, his joint speech, and said before the Congress, and said, hey, maybe there's something there. We were looking for reasons to just give me something. And Joe, instead, she shut down protesters in Michigan and said, I am speaking. She eventually said that she was that there would never be an embargo. She wouldn't support an embargo, or at least her people said that. And she kept reiterating Israel's right to defend itself as this kind of, it was almost like a tick at some point. She just kept saying that whenever anyone asked a complicated, nuanced, or maybe not so complicated question about a genocide, she just kept saying Israel has the right to defend itself. And so I feel like, to me, that's why she lost Michigan. That's why she lost Pennsylvania. And suddenly those couple 100,000 votes that you're talking about were gone.